Hello, everybody, and welcome back to an AFC East episode preview. This is the fourth one of the divisional previews, and we're halfway through, and it looks like we're actually going to be on time before the start of the season. And when we started this series, I didn't know if it was going to happen, but my dad Tony is here with us to talk about the AFC East and those vaunted defenses.
Yeah, they are amazing. That's for no doubt about that.
So, we can go through a lot to talk about, but we do have to spend a little time on the new coach and Gerard Mayo succeeding Belichick. Now, we can talk about when we get to the Patriots about the plan and how it is to move forward with Mayo's vision. But how does replace Bill Belichick go? The pressure is what I mean by that.
Well, from internally, probably not as hard as you'd think. I think externally with the fans and the media, that's where you're going to have the issues. What may save him is that the Patriots struggled for the last couple years. So, there was a lot of talk that Belichick had lost it. And let's face it, with Mayo being, with Belichick for so long, there might not be as much change as what everybody thinks, except on the offense side.
Yeah, and Boston media and fan base, very known for their patience.
Oh, absolutely. All East Coasters are,
Okay. Now that we kind of talked about that a bit, it's time to get on to some holes and pauses on this Patriots team as a whole. I think the biggest issue with the Pats team is, as much as I like their young quarterback, I think they've improved a bunch of areas around him. There's still a lot of room for improvement.
Oh, well, definitely. They were one of the weaker rosters offensively in the NFL over the past couple of years. Their wide receivers last year were less than to be desired. But, like you said, they filled a bunch of holes on the offensive line. They brought in some weapons for either May or Jacoby Brissett, depending upon who's going to be playing quarterback. And, their defense is going to be healthy, knock on wood.
Yeah, I think as long as this Patriots team defensively is healthy, they'll be in games. I don't know how many they'll win, but they'll be in games. They're not going to be an easy victory blowout type thing, especially if their quarterback isn't shattered mentally, and I don't think Jacoby Brissett is. It just doesn't feel like this is going to be a cakewalk, and they've played their division teams tough. That being said, the Jets don't have Zach Wilson anymore to rely on screwing up against the Patriots, but they played the Jets tough, they play the Dolphins tough, they play the Bills tough. They play teams tough, and when you get into those games, there will be mistakes, and they'll win some games because they force teams into mistake. You got Keon White, Chris Gonzalez, two young studs, a plethora of guys in the secondary, Kyle Duggar being a big part of that. This defense is made for close games, and I think we look at their schedule as a whole, they're probably not winning 8-9 games. I don't feel like that's fair to put them under. But I can see a solid 6-win season out of them, and based off with what we've seen previously, that is a step in the right direction.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. We've kind of talked on the side about just where they're at as opposed to other teams in the division, and so let's face it, they were, they actually beat the Jets in scoring last year. They, but not by a whole lot. That was against. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So they averaged just shy of 2 touchdowns a game last year.
Jesus.
Yes. So, and they gave up on average 21 and a half points. So if you can score an extra touchdown,
you're winning more games.
So, and that's the thing. They improved their offense. I think their play calling is going to be better. Their defense is going to be better, so that, that 21 and a half might go down to, say, 18 or 19, right? Maybe even not there, but even if it's at 19 and you get that extra touchdown, you just want, more games. And their defense is just legit. I think that last year when we were talking about this team, we were talking about how Bill O'Brien was hopefully going to correct the offense, but we would not want to play up against that defense with the draft picks that they'd brought in, and it's going to be the same this year. And the difference being is they have a lot more offensive weaponry.
Yep. And as the day we're recording this, the Patriots are officially out of the Brandon Ayuk saga. Yes, this is when we're recording it.
They're officially out until they're in.
At this point, I don't know what's going on with that. But now let's switch gears and talk about mainly the quarterback room, because I do want to go to the draft, but the quarterback room is probably the number one thing to talk about. Do you start Drake May early, or do you just kind of let Brissett ride, and if he gets injured or the team starts going on a big losing streak, do you play him? What's your thought process with bringing Drake May along?
I think that I play Jacoby until it doesn't make sense to pay Jacoby anymore. Your defense, I know Matt Judon wants a contract extension. You have quite a few high-priced players on that defense. And so you have to appease them, and bringing on a new quarterback isn't necessarily the best idea. The one thing I will say to that is, with bolstering their offensive line and bringing in like Antonio Gibson, they brought in KJ Osborne, they drafted Polk, they had a good running game to begin with. So I think with a philosophy of running the ball, hit your passes when you can, and not, letting him throw 25 times a game, I think maybe May would probably benefit if he was the starter initially. But I'd still play Brissett.
So I'd play Brissett probably till you either out of the playoffs or you have your bye week. And the reason why is I believe it's best case scenario is that you get your rookie quarterback time to prepare at entering the bye week. You know internally, hey, this is the game he's going to start is after the bye. We have extra time to prep him, get the right game plan in for him. I think that's the best case scenario when you're starting a rookie quarterback, in my opinion. My concern is that line is still not up to snuff. It's got a lot of issues. Chuck Okorafor comes over from Pittsburgh. He was not all that good there. They did re-up some pieces, but it's overall a line I don't have a lot of faith in, and I don't know if I want to put a quarterback like May, who is still developing, who got hit a decent bit at North Carolina. I don't think I want to put him immediately getting hit by these big NFL linebackers just crushing him, destroying his confidence. And then we're going to go back and look at how Mac Jones did. The thing that destroyed his confidence was he kept on getting killed behind a bad old line. You don't really want to replay that scenario. So until the bye week at the earliest or playoff elimination, I don't play May.
No, that's fair.
And to move on to their other draft picks, as you said, they drafted Jalen Polk. That Washington wide receiver room, probably better than the Patriots wide receiver room for how many years now?
Oh, definitely. They're all legitimate weapons. That's for sure. So I think he'll be an added beast. So let's go back to Brandon Ayuk for a second. Put Brandon Ayuk on this team. And what do you think?
I don't want to trade for Ayuk if I'm the Patriots. That's because I still think they're into the build-up stage. And I know that you're going to probably say that this team is better, that they can go on a run. I don't believe 8-9 wins is good in the long run. I would rather this team be bad and get a higher draft pick than trade a second. I doubt it's a first at this point, but trade a second round pick for an Ayuk, and we're just going to be middle of the pack, not getting a high draft pick, when I think there is a case that Luther Burden out of Missouri will be the top wide receiver off the board in this next draft, and he might arguably have that number one star potential, that he might be a better prospect than Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion. That's how highly I think of him.
Wow. So here's my point on it, and then we'll get going on this just so that all the teams get their fair share. With the roster that they've created, if they bring in Brandon Ayuk, he automatically goes to their number one receiver, which means Polk is going to be their number two receiver. And then you have KJ Osborne on the team as well. He thrives as a number three receiver.
I don't think Polk's their two. I think Juju would be their two.
I don't know. I personally think Polk will surpass Juju, but logistics speaking, they've got a very good running game. Their defense is solid. I think that they're a wild card team. And for a team that just fired arguably the greatest NFL coach of all time, for a team that has been giving their fans horrible product on the field for the last few years, for a team that just drafted a quarterback in the first round, if you can get back to even sniffing the playoffs and contending for a wild card spot, I think it's a huge win. And the thing is you're going to be able to bring in far more free agents than what you're bringing in now, because Ayuk doesn't want to go there, right? Because he doesn't think they're going to win. How many other free agents are like, nope, I need to win? And you need to get to that level where you look like you're potentially a winning team, a playoff team.
And this is where our viewpoints differ, because I don't think this is a wild card team. Even though I talked about them nicely, there are still too many holes, and they just need to build up. This team, they don't have depth. You trade away that second round pick and probably more, you're not going to have as much depth. You need depth in the NFL. You need to build this team up. And especially, this team, not good offensively. I cannot stress this enough. Their receiver room is still not that good. KJ Osborne is fine. Jalen Polk, I like. I like their other rookie wide receiver who we'll talk about here in a minute, and Javon Baker. Juju has not been the same since leaving Kansas City. They need to build up. And Brandon Ayuk does not turn this team into a wildcard team. And if he does, I think it hurts the Patriots in the long run, because I think you need higher picks to build this team up the right way.
Don't forget they have Kendrick Bourne, although they wouldn't have him if they picked Ayuk. But just like you said, the roster as it sits right now is not a playoff team. Now move everybody down one, and you put Brandon Ayuk on that team.
It's not a playoff team in the AFC. That's the thing. The AFC is so loaded that they are not going to be better than some of the Ravens and Bengals. Those will be a team battling for a wild card. Miami is going to get off to a hotter start, and they'll be better than New England. You're going to look at the AFC West. Maybe no one out there, but the AFC South has teams loaded with the Jags, Texans. And again, the AFC North is right there. The Browns made the playoffs last year. The Steelers did. There are teams above New England that one player is not going to make a difference for them right now.
Well, it's not necessarily one player. It's just one player adding on to what you've already beat. But let's move on to your favorite NFC East team, the Jets. Let's hop on that train from Boston.
We didn't talk about their other picks. And
okay,
real quick, because I feel like it's a service to not talk about them. Also, you said NFC East. Caden Wallace from Penn State. Solid tackle, developmental, was clearly going to be the second guy drafted out between him and Olu Fashanu. Not really a knock. Olu was pretty great. Layden Robinson from A&M. He was solid. I didn't really have any big-time notes of him. I thought he was somebody who was going to get in the NFL, probably hold down a roster spot, have a nice 5-6 year NFL career. Javon Baker, I love. I had a really high grade on him. I think he has a lot of explosion, a lot of great playmaking ability. This might be the guy to eventually become your number one receiver. I liked him more than I like Jalen Polk. I think he is by far the most talented receiver in that locker room as of today. Marcellus Dial, I admittedly did not watch a whole bunch of South Carolina. Joe Milton, man, Milton is fun to watch, but he is also irritating to watch if it's your team. He can chuck the ball as far as possible, but he's also not going to be an accurate guy. Excited to watch him in the preseason, though. He'll be a lot of fun. And then you have Jaheim Bell. And the reason I want to highlight Jaheim Bell, even though I wasn't like gun-ho on him as a lot of other people, I thought he's a fine tight end. When I was taking notes on their draft picks and I was collecting the data, the Patriots website has him listed as a DB. Now, I did not look into it if he's getting DB reps or tight end reps at training camp, but I thought that was an interesting note that maybe they are interested in him at playing DB with his athleticism and length.
He's got to be a lot bigger than a DB, though.
But New England kind of likes to do is mix and match. What Belichick would always take someone and figure out their best strength, go with it. Maybe that thought process is still the same. They see something there. They like his length. They maybe think he can come down and play the run. Something's there. Why not?
Interesting. I think it probably was a typo.
Might have been a typo, but it intrigued me nonetheless. The team website put that out, and they haven't fixed it since the draft. Now time to move on to the JETS, Jets. And we can talk about a lot of things here. What are the Jets doing? Nathaniel Hackett's still the OC. Well, we all know why he's still there. But their biggest addition to the offseason might also be their biggest weakness is a lot of the guys they brought in on the offensive line are older, minus their rookie draft pick. This is now an older O-line, and it's an older team offensively. That gives me cause for concerns, especially with the human body does not age gracefully typically, especially when you're playing a contact sport that's going to require you making a lot of big plays, a lot of miles you're going to put on your legs, shoulders, arms, whatever. Those miles add up, and I want to ask your thoughts as someone who is older. What's it like getting older and trying just to hit something like that?
It hurts. No doubt about it. The more you age, the more impacts hurt. And the biggest thing that you have to remember is that your body doesn't recover as quickly, right? So injuries take longer to heal. So, and then look at some of the free agents that they did bring in. Tyron Smith, when he is on, he is great, right? But often injured. Mike Williams, great jump ball catcher, but has he had a full season since he's been in the NFL where he hasn't missed games because of injury? And his back issue is pretty scary, right? And then, I mean, I love Tyrod Taylor. I love the fact that they brought him in. I think he's going to help out a lot because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to last.
Still injury issues.
Exactly, for an aging player, right? Javon Kinlaw, not so much an older player, but he still had a lot of injuries. And for where they picked him and all the hype around him, definitely didn't live up to his quote unquote potential, in San Francisco.
The Jets, they're so hard to figure out because their quarterback room is improved from last year with a healthy Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor than Zach Wilson and whatever they had. But then you think, are they going to stay healthy? Well, their wide receiver room is the exact same. Garrett Wilson, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. I watched way too much of that Jets offense last year because I had him in fantasy. And I'd see him destroy his guy, and Zach Wilson does not get the ball anywhere close to him. I think Garrett Wilson's going to have a great year, is what I'm trying to say. Their running back room, Breece Hall. Breece Hall is great. He will be good this year. especially now that they're not trying to force a ball to an aging Dalvin Cook. This team has talent. The problem is the spots that you need to invest in to win in the NFL, quarterback, line, it has injury history and it has age working against it. If Rodgers can be prime Aaron Rodgers, this team has an honest shot to go to the Super Bowl. But you're not getting prime Aaron Rodgers. You're getting Aaron Rodgers off Achilles injury. You're getting Aaron Rodgers who didn't look like Aaron Rodgers his last full season in Green Bay. And maybe you can say, well, that was because the offensive line wasn't that good. Guess what? One injury, you're right back to that spot. Now, on the positive side, they did have a solid draft, in my opinion. They brought in Olufashanu, who I really love. I thought he was going to go higher than 11 at one point, but quarterbacks, for some reason, were the hot topic, so they kind of went all off the board. I think Olu is their best move of the offseason. Would you disagree at all?
Oh, gosh, no. Yeah. No.
He's someone that comes from Penn State. He's played in cold weather. He has done well in the pass game. And more importantly, when I think you look at with what this Jets team needs to do to succeed, he's very good in the run game. He's a good run blocker, good mauler. I think you can run Breece Hall behind him. You'll have good success. And that's going to be crucial for the Jets. Malachi Corley, the wide receiver from West Kentucky. I liked him a bunch. I felt he was drafted right around the right value there. Just never really seemed like someone I thought would go higher. Good slot receiver, can move around pretty decently. Overall, will be good for the Jets. Do you have anything to add about Malachi Corley?
No, I think he's a solid receiver.
Yeah, and then you look down, they took Braylon Allen, who was the running back at Wisconsin. That's all I really got. I was never blown away with him. I don't really have many draft notes on him. I just really put fine player, don't know where he goes.
He was a running back at Wisconsin, but he wasn't a running back at Wisconsin like the previous running backs that we've seen come out, right? So he was good, but he wasn't that explosive that we've seen recently.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with being a solid player. And here's the thing. He's still only 20. There's still plenty of room for him to grow. He doesn't turn 21 until January. Then we look at Jordan Travis. Is the Jets' strategy to piss off Aaron Rodgers by drafting a guy named Jordan and have him sit? Is that the plan?
5th round versus 1st round. I like the pick. I really do. I know you weren't as high on him as I was, but I think that he definitely needs to, be developed some. But I like his moxie, and I think he can be a pretty serviceable to good NFL quarterback.
I don't know how much we'll see him in the preseason if he is clear to play, because he did have a nasty broken ankle against Northern Alabama. Wish him all the best in that recovery. Now let's get to the running back I liked a lot that they picked in Isaiah Davis. I like watching a lot of FCS games. I watched a lot of Isaiah Davis from just watching Mason McCormick. He had some nice holes to run through, but that man is a physical, aggressive runner. Very good pick by the Jets, especially in the 5th round. Cortez Stiggers from actually the CFL, which I watched the CFL, but I didn't really scout him, so I don't know how
the Toronto Argonauts.
With one of the best helmets in football. Legitimately one of the best. Massive downgrade in helmets for Stiggers. But I think there's something there that a CFL guy was drafted to the NFL. I don't think that's ever happened before. It gives me intrigue of what's to come with him, to say the least. And Jalen Key, I admittedly didn't watch a whole bunch of him. He was kind of a forgotten player from Alabama. That's all I really have to add on him. I'm honest here. uh, I think we look at this Jets team, though, and we can agree on this. They have insane upside if everything goes right, but they also have the risk of picking top 5 if everything goes wrong. And maybe not even everything. Maybe 1 to 2 things go wrong and they're picking top 5.
Well, I think the thing that will save them from picking top 5, because they still have a darn good defense, right?
But
And they did bring in a lot, but what the difference is they actually have a quarterback that can play in Tyrod Taylor. So,
but then again, you don't know if he can stay healthy the entire season if Rodgers goes down.
very true.
And the other thing I will add, as you mentioned, the defense. The reason why I think if 1 to 2 things goes wrong, I don't think Salah sees the end of the season, and then I wonder how much of the defense will fall off a bit because of that. That's just my concern with the Jets. At the end of the day, I expect them to be hiring a new coach, and this is not a shot against Robert Saleh. I think he's done a good job with that Jets team. I think they missed majorly at quarterback, and it's just been shooting them in the foot since. And all in on Aaron Rodgers, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it's going to work out long run. So,
yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
So let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. And, man, Dolphins fans, you're not going to like me. And this is not because I don't think this is a playoff team. I have more issues with this team when we get closer to the playoffs. But before we get into that, their biggest strength in the offseason was, I think they re-signed their weapons. They kept them together. They have a highly explosive offense. They re-signed Jaden Waddle. They re-signed Tyreek Hill. They gave Tua a nice extension for Tua Tagovailoa. They kept the band together, which I think is very good for a Dolphins team that has not had a lot of success my lifetime. I don't think they've won a playoff game since I've been born, if I'm correct.
I would have to think you might be right.
Well, I believe Marino was the last quarterback to win a playoff game, and he hasn't played since I've been born, so. And I think we can look at that as a positive. Positives are, I think they have a good defense. But I think you should take over more of this Dolphins because you're much more positive on them than I am.
Well, that might surprise you.
What?
So I was pretty high on the Dolphins as of last year. I thought that their offense was amazing. One of the things that hurt them was when their offensive line started going down. Losing Connor Williams to his season-ending injury, didn't do much for them. Think about how they closed down the stretch of the season, right? And then you go into them losing Christian Wilkins, and they lost Robert Hunt. I know their secondary was not great, but they still lost some in the secondary. And then the biggest loss for them, in my opinion, is Van Ginkel. I thought he was amazing. So they brought in their first overall pick was Chop Robinson, Penn State. I'm not a huge fan. Everybody says he has all the traits in the world, and he does. He is a physical specimen, no doubt about that. The problem is if you have all of these tools and all of these traits and the speed and the power, and you can't make it work in college against some people that will not be playing in the NFL, what makes you think that it's going to transition on Sundays when, let me think, all the players are in the NFL? I did like Patrick Paul. I thought he's pretty good. Jalen Wright. I thought that you were really high on him. I thought he was.
I was so on him. I was higher on Chop than you, but that's because I liked his potential.
Yeah, potential costs people jobs. So I'll mess up Mohammed Kamara's name, I think.
Nope,
Hopefully
you
I
said it
didn't.
right. Actually, it's Muhammad
Oh,
Kamara.
all right. So uh, I didn't watch too much of him when I was looking at some of his.
You want me to jump in because I watched a good bit of him.
Absolutely.
Muhammad Kamara, you know how we just said Chop has all the tools and no production? Kamara doesn't have as many tools, but he's got a lot of production. He was very good at setting the edge at Colorado State, good at getting to the quarterback, solid pick, probably a very good third edge rusher, especially when you look at a team that has Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, good depth. But if you need to rotate him on the field, I don't think you're losing a whole bunch there.
You have the Washington wide receivers, and what I mean by that, Malik Washington from Virginia, and then Taj Washington from USC. And I didn't think Malik was bad. I guess I was higher on Taj than most people because I actually had like a fifth round grade on him. So uh, I found it interesting that they got him in the seventh round, but I think he can be a nice player for them. They added Jordan Brooks. They added Jordan Poyer um, to try to offset, losing Wilkins. They brought in Benito Jones, who I do like Benito Jones, um, and then they brought in Jonathan Harris from not the Cowboys, excuse me, the Broncos. So and they're bringing in pieces. Oh, they brought in Neville Gallimore as well, and we were both pretty high on him coming out of college. So he didn't pan out as much as we thought he would in Dallas, but I'm really hoping that this is the time when he's actually going to shine because I was really high on him coming out. So what I see is I see a track team that their defense isn't going to be as strong as it was last year, and their offensive line isn't as strong as it was last year. And so you just gave your quarterback 50 plus $1 million, but what did you do to protect him? And that's where I have my issues you know, with this team, especially in this division.
Am I good to go?
It's yours.
I am not a fan of this team because they should be so much better. They're going to make the playoffs. Their first 8, 9 games, that's your playoff run, Miami. Miami fans, enjoy that. Because after that, and after week 8, you get Buffalo, Rams, Raiders, Patriots, Packers, Jets, Texans, 49ers, Browns, Jets. Those teams are going to beat you up, especially when we get to the winter and you're going to Green Bay in late November. You're going to Cleveland late December. This team's not built to win on the road in December, in January, in November even. They're going to get dominated out front when it gets later in the season. They're going to get off to a hot start. They're probably going to be 6-1, 6-2, probably. And then everyone's going to say, this is the year Miami breaks through. Guess what? No, it's not. Because Mike McDonald, as many positives I have to say about his offense, his running of this team has been disastrous defensively. The past 2 years they've made the playoffs. Fire the DC because he got blamed for it. Why did they get blamed for it? I don't know. You had a quarterback that had a bunch of turnovers the first time against Buffalo. And then, Vic Fangio. Well, he was a little hard on the players. You know who just hired Vic Fangio and is probably going to have a shot at the Super Bowl? The Eagles. That's a team that's trying to win in January. The Dolphins, they are just trying to sell tickets. They're not here to win playoff games. They're here to sell tickets.
Under the Bills.
Okay. Bills. Now, we've ragged on some of these teams in the AFC East, and mind you, I am higher on the Bills than probably a lot of people, even you, I'm sure. They did lose some key players at key positions that they had to cut due to cap space. Do you have a worry of losing a Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, of what this is going to do to the back end of the defense, and just some of the players lost overall, including Stephon Diggs?
Well, I mean, there's always that threat that losing all that experience is going to hurt you. But they also brought in some players. I mean, they did bring in Mike Edmonds and Taylor Rapp. Neither of us are huge Taylor Rapp fans, but he can be serviceable in the box, which is, one of the things that Buffalo does well is their safeties come up and play the run. And I like Cole Bishop. I'm not sure if we even talked about him much in the draft, but I like him. And I think he'll be a day one starter and he's going to be a difference maker. So they had to move off players quite simply because they couldn't afford to keep them all. I mean, I don't know how they afforded to keep the players that they did keep, but they did. So they got a lot younger. Let's face it. I mean, everybody always made fun of Gabe Davis. So losing him, I don't think it's that big a deal. And then Stephon Diggs going down the stretch. It wasn't really an offense that favored the wide receivers anyway. I mean, they kind of transitioned to favoring their tight ends more. And let's face it, they got a couple of really good tight ends. And I know I'm higher on Keon Coleman than you are. I think that after this season is done, he's going to be talked about as one of he's going to be talked about in the offensive rookie of the year race.
No, because Caleb. It's going to be Caleb.
I said talked about. I didn't say he was going to win it. I said talked about. There's always,
I think everyone's just going to say Caleb and that's it. That's what I think we're looking at. Now, that's not even the rookie I like the most of the Bills drafted on offense, but as you said, this team invested in defense with their draft. They invested in offense. They had a very great draft, in my opinion. But before we talk about the draft picks, which I might spend a little bit more time on because I was a big fan of their draft, I cannot say this enough. Draft Dalton Kincaid in fantasy. Fantasy people, if you were to take Dalton Kincaid round 1, do not blame you. That's the type of season he's probably going to have. He is going to be the number 1 option in that offense. He is going to get the ball thrown a lot to him in the red zone. He's going to have great production.
I don't know if I would take him in the first round, but I definitely would not hesitate taking him in the second round.
Yeah. Well, it depends where you're picking, but as we move on to this draft, as you said, you like Keon Coleman a bunch. I was lower on him. I never felt like he was going to be a true one in offense. And hey, like I said, he's not going to be that in Buffalo, so maybe it works out. Cole Bishop.
Time out for 1 second. Anybody that has listened to multiple of our podcasts for the last couple of years, go back and listen to any series where we talk about a Florida State player and see what Jordan says about him.
Hey, listen, I'm a Gator fan, but also I've mainly been right about them.
Not really.
Who have I been wrong on?
I'm just saying you definitely do not like Florida State players.
No,
you're always down on them.
I am high on Florida State players when I think they are going to be good at the NFL level. I was not a Keon Coleman guy, and that's fine. I wasn't a Keon Coleman guy when he was at Michigan State. Cole Bishop, I like a bunch. Good safety. I believe he transitioned from running back to safety at one point, or I may be getting another Utah player confused.
Yeah, you are. It's not him. I can't think of his name, but yeah, it's not Cole Bishop. Sorry.
Okay. It's a different Utah player, but that's fine. Cole Bishop, very talented guy, has good range in the secondary, good solid tackler. Will probably be put in the Micah Hyde role if I had to guess, if anything.
I would agree with you.
Dwayne Carter from Duke, defensive tackle. Some beef. Get some beef up front. Now, my guy I loved on from the start, and anyone who wants to say I don't like guys who beat up on the Gators, well, first of all, Keon Coleman didn't. But second of all, Ray Davis tormented me twice. I believe in the 2 games he played against the Gators, he had 200 yards each game. This dude, he may not look fast. He's going to run through you and then burn you down the stretch. He has those afterburners. Then after he gets through first two layers of defense, when he knocks your helmet off practically, he's going to turn on the Jets. He's going to be gone for a touchdown. I do not have enough positive things to say about Ray Davis. I think he was probably their best pick of the entire draft. Cedric Van Pran Granger from Georgia. A lot of people loved him. I thought he was a very raw center. I think the Bills are a good team at developing, so I like the pick when it comes from that. And I don't know if they'll have him move to play center or move him to guard. Which one would you think is more likely there?
I think he's probably going to be a center. I mean, think about it. They lost Mitch Morris in free agency. Yeah. So I think they're going to need – I mean, they brought, I just think that they're going to need depth at center.
And that's fair. And if you have a guy that can play two position on the line, that's never an issue. I apologize. I am probably about to butcher his name.
Edu Ofoasio.
What he said. Washington linebacker. I didn't watch a whole bunch of him because Washington's defense wasn't all that great, and they had some bad moments. With what I did see, and this is not me watching his film, with what I did see watching the games live, he was solid. He was in the right position typically. He sometimes didn't make the play. He sometimes did. A 5th-round pick.
He's fair. Yeah, that's exactly it. You're hoping that he develops into more. But, that's about where he's at. I'll be honest. I don't know anything about Javon Solomon.
I do. I really like this pick. Solomon was very good against the run at Troy. Troy had a very underrated defense, and I think Solomon was a big reason why. They relied on him heavily to be the guy to help stop the run, help get to the quarterback. He was kind of their star guy down there. Did a lot of great stuff, especially in conference play. I believe it was maybe Georgia State or Georgia Southern was one of the Georgia games. I turned on that film. He was a stud, just making play after play after play.
Well, there you go then. I'm not sure about Tylen Grable either, but I did like Daquan Hardy. I thought that he plays with a lot of moxie.
He's the nickelback, right? Like that's
yeah, and I think he's gonna probably at least early on be more on the special teams side, but I still liked him.
So I'm not gonna even pretend to say I watched Travis Clayton. I believe he was an international pick, who the NFL they had like highlights of him, and all I remember is when I saw him, that's a big dude, is what I said.
Well, there you go. So, we've this series, we've kind of skipped over some of the free agents. I did want to bring on one really quick. A couple years ago when Mac Hollins was in with the Raiders, I mean, he had some serious flash. Do you think, because his thing was the long ball, right? Well, he's got one of the best long ball throwers in football. Do you think he's going to have a little resurgence this year?
So that's interesting, because with what you're insinuating is you think he'll take over the Gabe Davis role.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'd argue he did a better job doing the Gabe Davis role in Oakland with the Raiders than Gabe Davis did with the Bills.
I would concur.
I didn't even think of that. That's actually interesting. If he still has that juice, because he is a little older, if I'm correct, he's close to 30. If he has that juice, yeah, that's a perfect marriage. Yeah. Now it's time to move over to rookies to watch. Who is your offensive rookie to watch?
Oh, let's see that. Okay. Keon Coleman.
Same team, different player, Ray Davis. I was very high on him as I was talking about the draft, and he goes to a team that did show they will run the football a bunch down the stretch.
Very fair. Your defensive rookie?
Cole Bishop.
Guess what? Same team, same player, Cole Bishop.
I think with what we're saying is we really like this Bills draft.
Yeah, I definitely say so.
Yep.
So I have a question. What do you think Keon Coleman's role is going to be?
Probably middle of the field, Moff type guy, middle range. I don't think he's the deep ball guy. I don't think he's a short yards guy. I think you try to get him middle of the field, get that almost a big slot. That's what I would do him, is a big slot.
I think he's going to be their third down guy because of, like you said, he's not going to burn them deep field, but his route running is good. His wingspan, his catch radius is good, and he's good in and out of his breaks. So, and he's strong. So I think that's one of the reasons why I like him. I think that he's a valuable piece that they haven't had in the last couple of years.
I do not think he'll be the third down guy just because Dalton Kincaid, man, you throw the ball to him, he catches it.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I like Dalton Kincaid as well. I'm just saying that like I said, he's my offensive rookie, in this class.
And I think Ray Davis is going to get on the field, and I think we're going to have a hard time getting him off, especially with how he runs. I don't want to tackle him in December in Buffalo. Time to move on to defensive MVP. And this one I struggled with for a while because I was trying to think to give it to someone else, but I ended up giving to Sauce Gardner. I couldn't come up with someone else. I tried looking at the Bills. I tried looking at the Dolphins. I tried looking at the Patriots. Sauce Gardner is just one of the best defensive players in the world. It felt wrong not to give it to him.
I'm right there with you. Honestly, the one player that I thought of that was, he was playing lights out last year until he got hurt, was Christian Gonzalez.
But even then, they play the same position, and Christian is still going to be a little bit more raw than Sauce is. And you just don't throw to Sauce. That's pretty much the end of the story.
Hey, for good reason.
Offense MVP, I just put Josh Allen down, and I'm just going to say that's it. Josh Allen.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't think you can argue with that. And like I said, I think that he's going to be front runner for MVP this year.
The only guy I think you're going to have an argument with, if he has the same season, if not slightly better, is Tyreek Hill. It's the only guy I think that's an argument against Allen.
Oh, for this division?
Yeah, for the division.
I thought about that as well, but I don't think that he's going to have the same year. I don't think that they're going to have as much time to throw.
No, and that's also why I kind of spent some time going after them. Division standings.
Buffalo, Miami, Patriots. Oh, I'm sorry, no. Yeah, Buffalo, Miami, Patriots, and the Jets.
Wow, you have the Jets taking fourth?
Yep, I sure do.
We have one disagreement, and that's I have the Jets in third, Patriots in fourth, Dolphins in second, Bills in first. I think the Dolphins do make the playoffs, as I said, because I think they'll get off to a hot start. But down the stretch, I just view them as another one-and-done playoff team. The Bills, I do think are one of the four teams I think have a shot to go to the Super Bowl. They have to beat Kansas City in the playoffs. I don't know if they can do that right now, especially with this young, inexperienced team.
It won't be young and inexperienced by the time it gets there.
True, but it's Pat Mahomes. He makes everyone look young and inexperienced. That's going to wrap us up for the AFC East. Up next will be the NFC North, and we get to talk about Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Love, and Jared Goff. Be a fun episode. Thank you everyone for listening. If you like to hit that like button. If you're new to this channel and you want to keep following, hit that subscribe button. The playlist will be at the end of here. It's probably popped up right now. You can click on it. Check out our AFC, NFC South, and our NFC East videos as well. Thank you everyone. Have a great day.